Hello and welcome to Study with Sudhir, your own digital classroom. And today we are going to do एक बड़ा चैप्टर करने वाले हैं जिसका नाम है एंडोक्राइन ग्लैंड्स, जो कि ICSE क्लास 10 बायोलॉजी सिलेबस का है. सो हमसे जुड़िए, सब्सक्राइब टू द चैनल फॉर ऑल द चैप्टर्स ऑफ ICSE क्लास 10 done here comprehensively along with revision here on SWS. Along with revision का क्या मतलब है? Because the way I have structured the entire material is in such a way that आप पढ़ते रहेंगे, immediately after 2-3 slides उसका revision भी हो जाएगा. And I would suggest that you always should go back to your textbook or see the video again after 3 days. Okay? 3 days, 4 days के बाद again go and revisit and see कितना कुछ retain हुआ है, and then you revisit it again after a week or 10 days. Because the more you do so, आपके ये सारे कॉन्सेप्ट्स, बिकॉज इसमें काफी सारे टर्म्स हैं. ओके, किस ऑर्गन का क्या फंक्शन है, किस हार्मोन का क्या फंक्शन है, उसको याद करने की जरूरत है. तो अगर याद करना है तो डू दिस द SWS वे ऑफ स्टडीइंग एंड रिवाइजिंग ऑलमोस्ट टुगेदर इन टैंडम. सो दैट्स अ वे आई वुड फोकस ऑन डूइंग दिस. ओके, तो शुरुआत करें. रिम झिम रुम झुम भीगी भीगी रुत में तुम हम तुम हो चलते हैं. तो लेट्स स्टार्ट, चलते हैं. लेट मी स्टार्ट विद द वर्ल्ड ऑफ ग्लैंड्स. ये एंडोक्राइन ग्लैंड्स, ये भला चीज क्या है, ग्लैंड्स क्या होते हैं? नाउ यू नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड, और ये कीवर्ड है मेरे सारे नोट्स में, पीडीएफ्स में मैंने कीवर्ड्स का इस्तेमाल किया है. एंड इट इज नॉट फ्रॉम वन बुक. Our resource material is not just, copy pasted from one book. We actually do a lot of research from 5 different sources. And I'll tell you the sources. There is the Selena textbook. There is the Educart book, reference book. There is the Together with book. Then there is there are 2 websites, American websites of leading hospitals, one of them being John Hopkins website. I refer to all those websites, and then there is a National Health website also. Okay, so you refer to those 2 websites also, so that you are absolutely sure that whatever material you are putting out is medically authentic, because everything is related to health and medicine. आपके, like for instance, इस चैप्टर में हम डायबिटीज के बारे में पढ़ेंगे. So I have gone through an entire paper which deals only with diabetes, deals only with thyroid. Okay, ताकि whatever information we are putting out, ये नहीं कि बुक में, because बुक्स में कई चीजें गलत होती हैं. So you always cross check, verify information, ताकि जो information SWS पर आपको मिले वो कभी भी 1% भी गलत ना हो. 1% क्या, 0.01% भी गलत ना हो. Okay, so this is called the chemical communication system of the human body. ये कीवर्ड है, chemical communication system. Endocrine glands are the glands in general, are the chemical communication system, and especially endocrine glands. Now this is the branch of biology, of science, endocrinology, which deals with the study of endocrine glands and actions of hormones. Endocrine glands और hormones, इनका काफी पास का रिश्ता है. ओके, जहां endocrine glands होंगे वहां पर hormones की बात होगी, जहां hormones की बात होगी आपको समझना चाहिए कि इसका सोर्स एंडोक्राइन ग्लैंड्स है. ओके, A and B इनका रिश्ता है. समझ में आ गया? आगे चलते हैं. नाउ लेट्स नाउ कम टू व्हाट आर एंडोक्राइन ग्लैंड्स. ये एंडोक्राइन ग्लैंड्स जिसकी हम इतनी बात कर रहे हैं, ये भला है क्या चीज? दीज आर डक्टलेस ग्लैंड्स, और ये कीवर्ड है डक्टलेस. एंडोक्राइन एक और ग्लैंड्स होता है एक्सोक्राइन, जिसमें डक्ट्स होते हैं. इसमें डक्ट्स नहीं होते हैं, डक्टलेस. तो डक्टलेस ग्लैंड्स आर अ कीवर्ड, अंडरलाइन कर लीजिए, अपने नोटबुक में लिख लीजिए. विच पोर देयर सिक्रीशंस, वो अपने जो सिक्रीशंस होते हैं, सिक्रीशंस को क्या कहते हैं? हार्मोन्स इनटू द ब्लड. ये तीनों कीवर्ड्स हैं, डक्टलेस ग्लैंड्स, सिक्रीशंस, हार्मोन्स इनटू द ब्लड. खून के अंदर उनके सिक्रीशंस यानी कि हार्मोन्स पास किए जाते हैं by these ductless glands which are called endocrine glands. The secretions reach their specific target, और वो खून के रास्ते से, खून is like the national highway, दिल्ली से निकला एंडोक्राइन, वो स्पेसिफिक एंडोक्राइन ग्लैंड दिल्ली से है, उसको बॉम्बे भेजना है, तो वो खून के रास्ते से जाके, नेशनल हाईवे के रास्ते से जाके, इट विल रीच मुंबई. दैट इज द वे यू नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड. ओके, नाउ दे रीच द स्पेसिफिक टारगेट ऑर्गन्स और सेल्स, जो भी उसका स्पेसिफिक टारगेट होगा. ओके, थ्रू द मीडियम ऑफ ब्लड. Hormones are important secretions for regulation of body activities. और इसको with the help of examples मैं बताऊंगा, तो आपको समझने में कोई मुश्किल नहीं होगी, because it's pretty easy. You relate it to, see, it's all about our own human body, right? So it is an effort to understand your own body कि हम एक specific situation में एक specific तरीके से क्यों react करते हैं. हमारा body ऐसी परिस्थिति में, ऐसे सर्कमस्टांस में ऐसे क्यों रिएक्ट करता है, ये समझा जाएगा इस चैप्टर में. ओके, आगे चलते हैं. अब ये तो हो गया. नाउ यू विल वंडर, अरे ये जो खून की बात हो रही है कि हम खून के रास्ते से यहां से वहां जाते हैं, अरे सेम काम तो नर्वस सिस्टम भी करता है, तो ये डुप्लीकेशन क्यों किया है भला? ओके, नर्वस सिस्टम भी तो, देयर आर नर्व्स ऑल ओवर आवर बॉडी, राइट? तो नर्वस सिस्टम से भी मैसेजेस कम्युनिकेट किए जाते हैं. सो व्हाई डू वी नीड ए प्लान बी इन द फॉर्म ऑफ एंडोक्राइन ग्लैंड्स? नाउ फॉर दैट यू नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड कि ये हार्मोन्स, द हार्मोनल सिस्टम और नर्वस सिस्टम में डिफरेंस क्या है. ओके, नाउ दीज आर दी डिफरेंट एंडोक्राइन ग्लैंड्स. इसमें से 4 एंडोक्राइन ग्लैंड्स आपके सिलेबस में है. वन इज द पिट्यूटरी ग्लैंड, वन इज द थायराइड ग्लैंड, one is pancreas and the fourth is adrenal glands. So these are the 4 glands. उसके अलावा भी हैं, but these 4 are the ones which are part of your syllabus. So इन चारों पर हम concentrate करेंगे. Now इसमें चलते हैं. Hormones transported by blood. Okay, ये blood से transport किए जाते हैं, whereas the nervous system operates through nerve fibers electrochemically. पहला chemical है, ये electrochemically द नर्व फाइबर से नर्वस सिस्टम ऑपरेट करता है. तो ये हो गया डिफरेंस. देन हार्मोनल रिस्पॉन्सेस आर स्लो कंपेयर टू नर्वस रिस्पॉन्सेस. अभी स्पीड में डिफरेंस होता है ना, लाइट एंड साउंड के, राइट? एक तेजी से आता है, दूसरा थोड़ी देर बाद ही आता है. तो सिमिलरली हार्मोनल, सिंस इट हैज टू गो थ्रू ब्लड, अभी पिट्यूटरी ग्लैंड से एक मैसेज आया, इट हैज टू गो टू द हैंड, इट विल टेक टाइम फॉर द ब्लड, फॉर इट टू बी ट्रांसमिटेड थ्रू ब्लड, whereas nervous system is almost like immediate. My brain says that I need to take my hand up here, it will go immediately. The impulses will go immediately, the message will go immediately, right? So the hormonal response is usually slow compared to nervous response. समझ में आ गया? Difference number 2. तीसरा, many hormonal responses occur over long period of time. यानी कि काफी समय लगता है hormonal response में. Example, growth. Obviously, आप सब 14-15 साल के हैं, आपकी ग्रोथ होगी, आपकी हाइट बढ़ेगी ऑलमोस्ट टिल द एज ऑफ 18, राइट? 18 के बाद आपके कपड़े कम नहीं होंगे, छोटे नहीं होंगे, राइट? पैंट छोटी नहीं होगी, स्कर्ट छोटी नहीं होगी, बिकॉज यू विल स्टॉप ग्रोइंग, राइट? सो ऑल दिस ग्रोथ टेक्स प्लेस फ्रॉम द डे ऑफ योर बर्थ टू about 17-18, normally 18 years of age, till you turn an adult. So the hormonal response, example of growth, for example, occurs over a long period of time. और भी differences हैं. The main function of endocrine system is to maintain what is called homeostasis. Now ये चीज क्या है, जहां पर भी जरूरत हो, मैंने डेफिनेशन भी लिख दिया है ताकि आपको समझ में आ जाए. You go through this video with all these notes, आप उसके शॉर्ट नोट्स बना लीजिए. यही शॉर्ट नोट्स की तरह है, आपको कहीं और कोई भी मटेरियल देखने का जरूरत नहीं है. जैसे मैंने कहा, 5 different sources से this entire material has been prepared. The state of balance within the body for it to function correctly, that is called homeostasis. You need to remember this. Okay. While main function of the nervous system is to receive and respond to stimulus. Stimulus आता है, आपने गैस पर कुछ गर्म था, उसको छू दिया, या electric iron was hot, you touch it, immediately there will be a response. The stimulus, right? Your body or a part of your body has received a particular stimulus. So that is the nervous system. But as far as the endocrine system is concerned, its function is to maintain a state of balance within the body. A state of balance, and that's where the hormones come into play. The hormonal control regulates metabolism, right? Which is like, creating energy creating energy from the food which is put into the body, but nervous control, it does not have anything to do with the metabolism. Now, अब ये तब हो गया. Now थोड़ा सा एक रिवीजन की तरह कर लेते हैं. एंडोक्राइन का ब्रेकअप करके समझ लेते हैं. एंडो मीन्स इनसाइड, crine means to separate. Okay, so they mean to secrete internally. Internally, they kind of secrete inside the body. The secretions are poured directly into the blood. Revision time, as I said, इस चीज को याद रखना बेहद जरूरी है. Okay, do not forget to remember this. Or not through any special duct. Okay, because why not through any special duct? Because these are ductless glands. Okay. Please understand everything, every paragraph that you study later on in the book, उसको reverse करके उसका question बना के देखिए for critical understanding. Biology में हर concept को, every concept, please try to work out the why and the how. Why does it happen and how does it happen? Please remember this. And biology, there is a third W, which is also important, where, because where the organs are located, that's also extremely important. Okay, now let's go to this particular part, regulation of body activities. Now, every activity that takes place within the human body needs to take place at a particular time, right, and in the correct sequence. Gastric juice, bile, pancreatic juice, now these are all through exocrine, not through endocrine. They should be poured into the food canal only when there is food in it. This is a basic dimag ki batti wala point I'm telling you. This is something which you need to know about human body and in fact every mammal's body also. Now, revision time again. Okay, now I hope that you would be able to remember most of the points that I've mentioned out here. That's what I said. I'm going to teach you. I'm going to immediately revise also so that aapka immediately reinforcing keeps on happening, because as I said, there are a lot of small concepts that you need to recall and remember, retain, and then reproduce it in the examination. So many hours. So please remember this. Hormones secreted directly into the blood. This point I'm going on reinforcing कि अगर रात के 2:30 बजे भी उठ के आपसे कोई पूछे, you should be able to answer this. Okay. Act on target organs or cells usually away from their source. This is point number 1. They regulate the physiological processes by chemical means. They produced in small quantities. Biologically, hormones are extremely active. Third part, they are not stored in the body. They are excreted from the system. They are not subsequently hormones. ऐसा नहीं है कि blood के अंदर ही they will remain. They will subsequently get excreted from the system. Excess hormones, or which is called hypersecretion, or deficiency, which is called hyposecretion. ये hyper and hypo का difference always make this thing, don't get confused, and that can cause problems if you secrete too many hormones, that we will see, or if there is a deficiency. In both situations there can be a problem. We will read that about when we deal with specific hormones. Let's now so far we studied about endocrine. There is another branch called exocrine glands, right? जिससे कि, as I said, pancreatic juice वगैरह निकलता है. So what are these exocrine glands? They are glands with ducts. That's the difference. As I said, पहले कर दिया, revising again. They secrete enzymes or salts. They alter the rate of a chemical reaction in the body. Okay, the rate of chemical reaction. Please remember this phrase. What are the examples of exocrine glands? Sweat glands हुआ, salivary हुआ, मुंह में, lacrimal glands हुआ, आंख में, because of which there is that film over the eye, right? So almost like a protection device. So these are the glands with ducts. These are called exocrine glands. So exocrine or endocrine के बीच के differences, please make it. That's your assignment. You should be able to make out the difference between exocrine and endocrine glands. Please make those 2-3 differences का tabular form में अपने notebook में, ताकि अगर उस तरह का कोई question आए तो आप उससे deal कर सकते हैं. Now, this I have already showed you. These are the 4 ones which you have to do as part of your syllabus. So now that I have explained the basics to you, now we will get into the main part. Okay, तैयार हैं? Ready? Okay. मुश्किलों में है ये दिल मेरा. Okay, The first one is the adrenal gland. Now this का position क्या होता है? Let's first understand where is it located. It's located on top of the two kidneys. Okay, adrenal gland, kidneys. याद रखिए, what is the way to remember this? AGK. You can remember it like that, right? AGK, if that kind of works for you. AGK. Okay, different ways. अगर आपके इसमें कुछ और तरीका हो याद करने का, that also you can remember it. So kidneys के ऊपर adrenal gland are located. Okay, they are like caps above the kidneys. AD का मतलब है near, renal का मतलब होता है kidney. So kidney, that's another way of remembering. Renal means kidney. It's a reference to the science of kidneys or the medical terminologies associated with kidney. AD is near. So near matlab it is on top of the right and left kidneys. Okay, now usme kidneys ke inside the adrenal gland, this is the adrenal gland. It's almost like a cap on top of the kidney. Uske andar ka inside wala portion is called the medulla. The outside layer of the adrenal gland is called the cortex. Adrenal cortex, adrenal medulla. Okay, so these are the two parts that you need to remember, because इधर से जो hormones आएंगे उसी के बारे में हम ज्यादा पढ़ेंगे. These are the two kidneys. Okay, now adrenal medulla के बारे में पहले पढ़ते हैं. इसमें से it secretes a very important hormone called adrenaline. Okay, which is also known as epinephrine. Please remember, कई चीजों के दो दो नाम होंगे, आपको सब याद रखना पड़ेगा, बिकॉज एमसीक्यूज में आ सकता है या शॉर्ट आंसर क्वेश्चंस में ये सब पूछा जा सकता है. सो दिस इज कॉल्ड एड्रेनलिन. स्पेलिंग याद रखिए, एपिनेफ्रिन भी इसी को कहते हैं. इट इज सीक्रेटेड बाय एड्रेनल मेडुला, व्हिच इज द इनसाइड पार्ट ऑफ द ग्लैंड. ओके, नाउ दिस इज अ हार्मोन दैट प्रिपेयर्स बॉडी टू मीट एनी इमरजेंसी सिचुएशन. ओके, इसीलिए इसको इमरजेंसी हार्मोन भी कहा जाता है. प्लीज रिमेंबर दिस एज वेल. इट इज ऑल्सो कॉल्ड एन इमरजेंसी हार्मोन फॉर द रीजन दैट इट प्रिपेयर्स द बॉडी टू मीट एनी काइंड ऑफ इमरजेंसी सिचुएशन. इमरजेंसी सिचुएशन कौन सा हो सकता है? झगड़े के लिए या किसी तरह का खतरा हो, फॉर फाइट और टू फेस डेंजर. Suddenly, if there is some kind of an accident happening, there will be this hormone which will be secreted, or suddenly the building in which you are, there is an earthquake, it starts collapsing, there is danger. That will also prepare the body to meet any kind of emergency situation. Or it will be to flight, in the sense to run away from danger, to escape danger. What does it do is to provide extra energy. It provides you extra power and strength provided to body in that situation. Extra hormones are released into the blood during emotional stress, because suddenly agar earthquake aaya, suddenly you start drowning, right, inside a river, inside a lake, inside the swimming pool, tab aapke isme it will start releasing in order to give you more energy to fight against that emergency situation. Understood? So it is released into the blood during, and it causes you stress. Stress का मतलब क्या है? आपको चिंता होती है, आप घबरा जाते हैं. That is called stress, right? So during emotional stress, during anger, when you are very angry and shouting at somebody, आप बैंक में गए, बैंक में सब गड़बड़ हो गया, आपको पता चला कि आपके अकाउंट में से unauthorized way में X amount of money has been taken because some cheating. You get angry. When you are getting angry, when you are emotionally stressed, there is more adrenaline which is being released into the blood. So every time, anytime, the next time you see someone getting very agitated, very angry, या accident हो जाता है, दो गाड़ी से बाहर निकल के they start fighting and shouting at each other, it's mainly because more adrenaline is being pumped into their blood by the adrenaline medulla. समझ में आ गया? Biologically आप इसको break down कर सकते हैं. Excitement, suddenly the prices are going to be announced. You are tense because you are expecting to come first, whether you'll come third, second, or first. There is that excitement within your body. The gland stimulated by nerve endings of autonomic nervous system. So this particular gland secretion happens because it's also, so there is a connection also. There is a connection between the nervous system and the endocrine glands as well. Okay. Now, what does adrenaline do? This is important. Increases the heartbeat and rise in blood pressure. BP बढ़ता है, heart rate, दिल की धड़कन थक 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 करता है. आपको सम नेक्स्ट टाइम अगर आपका एग्जाम शुरू होने वाला है, राइट, एग्जाम क्वेश्चन पेपर is being distributed, it has not yet come to you, you are feeling thak 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 thak. Why? Because this is being released into your blood by adrenal medulla. तो काम किसका कौन कर रहा है? मेडुला कर रहा है उस समय पर. ओके. It increases the blood supply to muscles, to your muscles. It decreases this thing to your skin, visceral organs, which includes lungs, hearts, liver, etc. More glucose is released into the blood by the liver at that point in time. So you see, a whole lot of things are happening inside your body. आपको पता नहीं है, आपको उसके after effects पता चल रहे हैं. You are feeling what is happening, but now you need to know. Now that you have understood this, you need to know why is it happening. Understood? Why is it happening? Now, let's see a question like this. Now, this kind of a question you can get. There are people running a race. How does adrenaline help you to win a race? This kind of a question can come, right? It's a critical reasoning, application-based question. Now, adrenaline makes the heart beat faster. It increases the blood flow to the brain and muscles and stimulates the body to make sugar to use for fuel. When adrenaline is released suddenly, it is referred to as an adrenaline rush. So the final dash to win a race is under the influence of adrenaline. So that's how it helps you win a race. So if you get a question like this is how you write the answer using all the keywords. इसमें एक और keyword आप ये कर सकते हैं, adrenaline released by, secreted by adrenaline medulla. Okay, वो आप लिख सकते हैं and then you can write this entire answer. Understood? Now, what are the responses to adrenaline? You know, okay, release हो गया. What will be the kind of response? उसका response कैसा है? It makes the heart beat faster, increases BP. मैंने बताया. It increases, causes panting with faster and deeper breathing. You know, you start breathing faster, you're almost panting. You know, person turns pale because adrenaline constricts the arterioles of the skin. This is an important aspect. So आपको all the aspects, all the symptoms, किस तरह का इफेक्ट होता है उसको समझना है, because this can come as a question and you can be asked why is it happening, ये भला क्यों हो रहा है. You need to tell why is it happening if you are given the symptom, or you can be asked what will be the effect of adrenaline on, let's say, the skin. The person will turn pale. Okay, it will not, you know, it will become as though, you know, there is no blood supply kind of a thing. It constricts the arterioles of the skin. Then you go dry, प्यास लगती है, your throat is parched, your lips are dry mouth because it constricts the arterioles of the digestive system. Okay, please remember each one of these points because आपसे ऐसे भी पूछा जा सकता है, ऐसे भी पूछा जा सकता है. So both you need to know the correlation between the two. Shivering happens and there is a tense feeling because it tenses the muscles. The muscles get tense, so you feel more anxious and tense as a result. You could even be shivering. Then next let's come to the adrenal cortex, जो बाहर का पोर्शन है of the adrenal gland. समझ में आ गया ना? किडनी, उसके ऊपर का जो कैप है, कैप के अंदर का पोर्शन was the medulla, जो कि करता धरता है किसका? एड्रेनलिन का. बाहर का पोर्शन is the cortex, जिसके बारे में now we will understand. It secretes 3 kinds of hormones. 3 तरह के hormones को ये रिलीज करता है. Please keep remembering. I'm going slow so that you are able to digest all this information because there is a lot of information that is going to be provided as part of human physiology. काफी कुछ याद रखने के लिए होगा. तो याद रखने का तरीका आपका अलग होगा, मेरा अलग होगा, दूसरे बच्चे का अलग होगा. आपको किस चीज में रुचि है? अगर आपको हिंदी फिल्म के नाम से याद रखना हो, उससे याद कर सकते हैं. If you are interested in a sport like football or volleyball or cricket, you can relate it to that. So every student, depending on his or her own interest, can actually work out the different kind of codes. It secretes three kinds of hormones. What are the three kinds of hormones that are secreted by the adrenal cortex? Pehla hai cortisol, which are also known as glucocorticoids, which suppresses inflammation. Inflammation matlab, when there is swelling of any kind, right? And cortisol, this is important. If it over secretes, what I told you at the beginning, that we will do every particular hormone secretion, over secretion and under secretion. If it over secretes cortisol, it leads to something called Cushing's syndrome. What is that? It is characterized by swollen face. Aapka face swollen ho jata hai. Your neck gets swollen, your hands get swollen. There is high blood sugar, hyperglycemia. High blood sugar level is known as hyper. Whichever is high is hyper. Hypo is lower. Obesity, yani ki you put on weight. There are weak muscles. Osteoporosis, which is bone loses its density. Okay, your bones become weak, they become brittle, they can break. Fracture हो सकता है आपके किसी भी हड्डी में. Okay, how many हड्डीज are there in the movie, in the body? ये मुन्ना भाई एमबीबीएस में था 207. वो मुन्ना भाई एमबीबीएस में डायलॉग है ना, अरे सर्किट तुमको मालूम था कि बॉडी में इतने सारे हड्डियां होते हैं, तोड़ते वक्त हमने कभी सोचा था क्या? इट्स a bit like that. So these are the characteristics of Cushing's syndrome, which is because of over secretion of cortisol. याद रखिएगा. Second is aldosterone, which is also known as mineralocorticoids. This regulates BP, osmotic pressure. This is the second hormone. It regulates osmotic pressure, body fluid volume, mineral metabolism, especially sodium and potassium ions. ये आपको याद रखना पड़ेगा. Okay, just remember these points. And deficiency of aldosterone causes Addison's disease. In fact, Addison's disease is quite interesting. Is named after Thomas Edison. Edison, known as the father of endocrinology. Thomas Edison is known as the father. ये अल्वा एडिसन नहीं है, वो अलग है. ये ADD वाला है, वो ED वाला है. Okay, he is a father of endocrinology. He is the one who discovered Addison's disease, so it was named after him. What are the symptoms? Loss of energy, weight, nausea, low blood sugar, hypoglycemia, susceptible to infection, sensitive to cold and pain, and even diarrhea. Okay, so this is what happens when there is deficiency of aldosterone. Okay, cortisol का हो गया, aldosterone का भी हो गया. Now what happens अगर there is over secretion of aldosterone? Under secretion से समझ में आ गया, less secretion से Addison syndrome. Over secretion से something called Conn's syndrome होता है. उसमें क्या होता है? You have high BP, and which is quite difficult to control even with medication. There is weakness and muscle cramps and severe headache. Then the third kind of hormones which are released by the adrenal cortex are known as the sex corticoids. It behaves like sex hormones, these ones. Okay, overgrowth of cortex in children leads to premature sexual maturity. Over secretion in females causes something called adrenal virilism. This is an important term. That is, the male type secondary sexual characteristics appear in females. There is a hoarse voice, growth of beard, mustache, etc. In males, there are enlarged breasts, gynecomastia. That is what happens as a result of the if the over secretion of sex corticoids happen. Now, the question that you may wonder, okay, adrenal gland. अभी होता ही है ना कि कुछ लोग अपनी किडनीज को डोनेट करते हैं, left kidney, right kidney, too, because you can survive even with one kidney, right? Of course, it has to work more, but you can survive. So many people donate their kidneys. Okay, what happens? So obviously, when you're donating a kidney, the adrenal gland on top of it, because it is fixed to the kidney, that will also go. What happens if you have only one adrenal gland? The other adrenal gland has to double its work, pretty much like the kidney. It has to send more glucose and oxygen to the muscles to secrete the emergency hormone. The remaining adrenal gland gets enlarged. So these are the two things which happen when one particular adrenal gland is removed from the human body. This is an important question. इसको याद रखिएगा. So what I'm doing is I'm doing the basic theory. I'm also adding a question ताकि आपके साथ साथ क्वेश्चनिंग भी होती रहे, आपको ये भी पता चलता रहे कि इसमें से what kind of questions can be possibly asked. Okay, now we need to move to the pancreas. Now, this is the diagram of the pancreas. Okay, this is the liver, this is the part of the stomach, this is the pancreas. Okay, and you would be able to see this. That for me on the screen the diagram is not very clear. On the left side of the pancreas, the one in dark pink is the duodenum. Okay, that's important. So pancreas ka position aap yaad rakhiye. There is the gallbladder which is in green color, like almost like a plant, it's hanging. That is the gallbladder on the left hand side. Liver is the big portion on the left, and the esophagus jahan pe aa raha hai, uske baad the stomach is there. On the extreme right side is the spleen. So this gives you an idea कि आपका पूरा ये जो पेट का पोर्शन है वहां पर क्या क्या सामान रखा हुआ है. ओके, मेरा कुछ सामान तुम्हारे पास पड़ा है. Everything can be correlated to some song. धावन की रखे हैं वो रात बुझा दो, मेरा वो सामान लौटा दो. Okay, pancreas. Now pancreas is slightly different because it is both a duct and a ductless gland. Okay, I talked about pancreatic juice, etc., right? Now that is not an endocrine gland. So this is both a duct and ductless gland. How? Because it secretes hormones in the blood, that is endocrine, समझ में आता है आपको, and enzymes through ducts, that is exocrine. Simple funda, no problem. ये क्वेश्चन है, ये लिख दो, 1 mark आपके पॉकेट में होगा. Okay. Now, as a duct gland, it secretes pancreatic juice into the duodenum. What I showed you, the portion on the left, this is the duodenum. Okay, pancreas, this is the pancreas, this is the duodenum. So wahan par it kind of releases the pancreatic juice for digestion. As ductless gland, as an endocrine gland, it has special groups of hormone secreting cells called islets of Langerhans. Okay, it's a very exotic sounding name. Okay, islets of Langerhans. Islets nahi hoga, pronunciation is islets of Langerhans. It means little islands. Islets itself means little islands, and there are about 1 to 2 million islets of Langerhans which are present in a human body. Okay, so this is what does. So these islets of Langerhans are important. Iska function आप याद रखिए. I mean, where is it? The islet cells produce 3 hormones which are important. Insulin, which come from the beta cells, glucagon, which comes from the alpha cells, and somatostatin, which comes from the delta cell. Okay, these 2 are the ones in your syllabus. Insulin and glucagon, jiske baare mein, and this is now getting into slightly more tricky and important territory as far as your syllabus is concerned, because insulin diabetes से related question आपके एग्जाम में जरूर आएगा. लिख के देता हूं, it will come, so please pay attention. I hope यहां तक समझ में आ गया. समझ में आ गया तो आ गया लिखो comment section में that you're understanding it. Press the like button, subscribe to the channel. Okay, notification daba do in case if you want more such videos coming up regularly, and for you to be notified when such a video drops on the SWS channel. Insulin, what does insulin do? It checks the rise of sugar level in blood. How does it do that? By promoting glucose utilization by body cells, by enabling the cells to absorb glucose. ये definition थोड़ा आपको याद रखना पड़ेगा. By promoting glucose utilization, that is, glucose has to be utilized by the body cells, by enabling the cells to absorb glucose and convert it into glycogen. Glucose converted to glycogen. Also by stimulating deposition of extra glucose of blood as glycogen in liver and muscles. This is how it checks the rise of sugar levels in blood. Insulin, which is released. okay, by the islets of Langerhans. Please remember, पूरा ऑर्डर, सीक्वेंस, क्रोनोलॉजी को समझिए और इंसुलिन करता क्या है उसको भी समझिए. इसमें काफी सारे ये कीवर्ड्स हैं which you will need to remember. You don't have a choice because after all we are talking about proper definitions and who does what, in which case you need to mention what is done, what is converted to what, in what, and how. All those key medical biological terms you will need to write it the way it is. Okay, so this particular, I know that's why I said this. Now the second part of this particular chapter, there are a lot of terminologies which you will need to remember because we are talking about specific hormones and their biological medical function. Okay, so the question that arises is, what happens if there is insufficient secretion of insulin? अगर इंसुलिन की कमी हो, इंसुलिन कम सिक्रीट हो रहा हो बाय द आइलेट्स ऑफ लैंगरहैंस के जो बीटा सेल्स हैं, तब आप क्या करेंगे? ओके, इट कॉजेस डायबिटीज मेलिटस और हाइपरग्लाइसीमिया. मेलिटस मींस हनी, यानी कि it causes this is the medical term, diabetes mellitus. Now the symptoms of that is that there's high concentration, which is why mellitus honey, high concentration of sugar in the blood. Hyperglycemia means hyper excess and glycemia means sugar and emia means blood. So you can now connect it. Hyper jada, glycemia, glyce means sugar and emia means blood. So high concentration of sugar in blood, and he excretes a lot of urine which is again loaded with sugar. Okay, he feels thirsty because he's urinating more, so there is dehydration, there is loss of body fluid, liquid, water, so he feels more and more thirsty all the time. He loses weight. You will find that diabetic patients are usually very thin because they look very weak also because they have lost a lot of weight and becomes weaker. He could also, agar bahut zyada diabetes ho, to it can also impact your eyesight. In fact, whenever you go for any kind of eye checkup, one of the questions that the eye doctor, the ophthalmologist will always ask you is, are you diabetic? Because there is a correlation between diabetes and your eyesight. So a severe case of diabetes can also adversely impact your eyesight. Okay, what does a diabetic patient do? He administers. So what does he do in order to take care of this situation? He or she administers insulin. Insulin के injections आते हैं जो कि you may have seen, I hope not, in your family or anyone else is there, they will be administered insulin. Now the question is that if you take insulin, if you administer insulin through an injection, is that cure? Will diabetes get cured? No. It is not meant to be a cure for diabetes. It is only to supply the hormone which is not being produced by the pancreas. Pancreas काम नहीं कर रहा है, pancreas strike पर है या pancreas कम काम कर रहा है, तो उसकी वजह से इंसुलिन प्रोड्यूस नहीं हो रहा है और उसको सप्लीमेंट करने के लिए you are taking it artificially as an injection. Understood? Is it clear? Now what happens if there is over secretion of insulin? अगर इंसुलिन, ये तो हो गया अंडर सिक्रीशन, काम नहीं कर रहा है, कम काम कर रहा है, स्ट्राइक पर है, हड़ताल पर है, हमारी मांगे पूरी करो, पैनक्रियास काम नहीं कर रहा है. अगर ऐसा हो कि कुछ ज्यादा मेहनती है, कुछ ज्यादा ही प्रोड्यूस कर रहा है, he is producing more and more insulin, उससे भी ट्रबल है. See, we don't want anything in excess, we don't want anything in deficiency. We want the exact amount, है ना? खाना ज्यादा खाओगे तो भी मुसीबत, खाना कम खाओगे तो भी मुसीबत, बिकॉज भूख लगेगी. खाना ज्यादा खाओगे देन आपका डाइजेशन बिल्कुल बिगड़ जाता है. सो हियर व्हाट हैपेंस इफ देयर इज ओवर सिक्रीशन ऑफ इंसुलिन, इन विच केस द शुगर लेवल इन ब्लड इज लोअर्ड. The sugar level in the blood is lowered and that is called hypoglycemia. Now I am very sure आपको ये hypo और hyper का समझ में आ गया है. Okay, the brain could go into coma if it remains low even for a few minutes. The over secretion of insulin is a more dangerous situation than under secretion because you could actually go into coma if this is not medically treated within few minutes. Now, what happens if a diabetic patient is given an overdose of insulin? ये भी होता है एक्सीडेंट केसेस में, मेडिकल नेग्लिजेंस केसेस में, वेयर बाय मिस्टेक यू गिव एन ओवरडोज ऑफ इंसुलिन. ओ इसका इंसुलिन कम हो रहा है बिकॉज पैनक्रियास काम ठीक से नहीं कर रहा है, सो लेट्स गिव हिम एन इंसुलिन शॉट. लेकिन इंसुलिन शॉट कभी कभी बिकॉज द पर्सन हु इज एडमिनिस्ट्रिंग द इंसुलिन डज नॉट नो हाउ टू डू इट, they end up administering an overdose of insulin. What happens in that kind of a situation? Because then he may suffer from insulin shock of hypoglycemia and could become unconscious. Same thing like over secretion. The same thing ना, आपके बॉडी में ज्यादा चला गया, आप जितना ले सकते थे उससे ज्यादा चला गया, so obviously it will create an issue. So at this stage the bite of sweet biscuit or sugar candy is useful, so that can be an immediate kind of a redressal. Let's now come to glucagon. It stimulates breakdown of glycogen in liver to glucose and raises sugar level in blood. Okay, this is the function of glucagon. The second one, which is from the alpha cells, right? Now, let me ask you a question. Why is pancreas called a heterocrine gland? Heterocrine is when you are both exocrine and endocrine both. Okay. So, because it acts as partly exocrine with duct and partly endocrine without duct. Understood? Why does a diabetic patient feel thirsty? I just now told you. Revision time, testing time. Because the kidneys of a diabetic patient are forced to overwork in order to filter and absorb excess glucose. When kidneys cannot do it efficiently, the excess glucose is excreted as urine, which makes the patient dehydrated, so he feels thirsty. ये मैंने आपको समझा दिया है. आई होप पैनक्रियास का पूरा फंडा आपको क्लियर है. इंसुलिन, ग्लूकागॉन, स्पेशली इंसुलिन, ओवर सिक्रीशन, अंडर सिक्रीशन, ये सब आपको समझ में आ गया. एज आई सेड, प्लीज रिवाइज आफ्टर 3 days. आई हैव टॉट, रिवाइज दोनों, सो दैट आपको द कॉन्सेप्ट इज क्लियर. नाउ इफ यू गो बैक एंड रीड योर टेक्स्ट बुक और गो थ्रू द वीडियो अगेन फॉर द नोट्स, यू विल बी एबल टू अंडरस्टैंड इट दैट मच बेटर. आगे चलें. Thyroid gland. एक मिनट. Let's now move to thyroid gland. Let me show you the diagram first. Now, thyroid is located in the neck region, of the human body. Okay. Now, you see, these are the thyroid glands. Okay. And this is the windpipe, the trachea, which goes underneath. So, this is located above the windpipe. So it's the largest endocrine gland. Please remember this. ये आपसे MCQ में पूछा जा सकता है. Which is the largest endocrine gland? That is the thyroid gland. It is a bilobed, butterfly-shaped structure situated just below the larynx, and in the neck in front of the windpipe. In front of windpipe, above windpipe trachea, you can say that. Okay. 2 lobes are joined together by narrow isthmus tissue, which is called interconnection. And it secretes hormones thyroxine and calcitonin. इसमें आपको thyroxine के बारे में आपके सिलेबस में पढ़ना है, इसीलिए मैंने इसको रेड में लिखा है. So this is how it is there in your human body. Okay. Now, what does thyroxine do? Thyroxine regulates the basal metabolism. It supports the formation of RBC. It helps in electrolyte balance, controls metabolism of carbohydrates, fats, proteins. This is the function of thyroxine, जिसको आपको पढ़ना है, समझ में आना है, याद रखना है. Please remember this and you can write it in your notebook in the form of point 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. बना लीजिए code. You know, the first one can be M, then the second one can be R, the third one can be E, the fourth one can again be carbohydrate. So you can make some kind of a code in order to remember something like that. तो अगर उस तरह से करेंगे, depending on whatever your interest, I always say that I may give you a thing related to space science, but आपको space science का घंटा नहीं मालूम. So in that case, you will be more comfortable in relating it to soccer or relating it to some movie or relating it to some खाने की चीज, right? So depending on what your interest is, make your own codes. Always works better. इसीलिए किसी के notes लेने से फायदा नहीं होगा. Make your short notes. द वे आई हैव मेड दिस वीडियो एंड आई हैव मेड दिस नोट्स, इसको आप शॉर्ट नोट्स के फॉर्म में लिख लेंगे. ट्रस्ट मी, यू विल, नथिंग कैन प्रिवेंट यू फ्रॉम स्कोरिंग एन 80 on 80 in biology. लिख के दे. So this is what thyroxine does. Okay, now in the case of what happens in cases of insufficient secretion of thyroxine? अगर thyroxine कम secrete हो, so what happens? You have simple goiter, you have cretinism, and you have myxedema. Now the first one is goiter, which is the most important one. इसमें होता क्या है? There is swelling in the neck. There is swelling in the neck, and this is basically because this is the enlargement of the thyroid gland. It is visible as a swelling in the neck due to insufficient quantity of iodine in food. So if अगर आपके नमक में आयोडीन नहीं है या आयोडीन की कमी है तो उससे ये हो सकता है. Okay, so common among people in the hilly region where iodine is deficient in soil, and therefore उसमें जो भी आप फसल में जो भी क्रॉप्स उगाते हैं, जो कि आपका खाना बनता है, उसमें आयोडीन की कमी होती है. So in hilly regions you find that people have this goiter as a common ailment. That is why iodized salt is recommended. आपको iodized salt ही अपने खाने में इस्तेमाल करना चाहिए. Then you have cretinism. Now cretinism is a condition which affects the growth of children showing dwarfism. आपके किसी भी किताब में उसके लिए फोटोग्राफ्स पे होंगे when there are dwarf, बौने जैसी kind of features where the growth is in a sense stunted. ग्रोथ की कमी हो गई है. Okay, so it's called both mental retardation and dwarfism. Their minds, their brains and body structures are not fully developed. This is due to defective development or degeneration of thyroid. So thyroid gland के degeneration से भी ये हो सकता है. Myxedema, it affects the adult. Cretinism is in the child. Myxedema is in the adult. It affects the adult if thyroid malfunctions, person becomes sluggish, slow, with swollen face and hands. Okay, what happens if there is an over-secretion of thyroxine? Then you have what is called the exothalamic goiter. Then उसमें क्या होता है? The eyes become very big. They are protruding eyes and they are very big eyes, almost, coming out of the face kind of a situation. People are short of breath, there is rapid heartbeat and increase in the general metabolic rate. So this is as far as the entire thyroid is concerned, the largest endocrine gland in the human body. समझ में आ गया? Finally, we come to the pituitary gland. What exactly is the pituitary gland? Let me show you the diagram first. Now, the pituitary gland is located somewhere here. Okay, it is located just below the hypothalamus. Okay, I mean, if you see the brain, it is somewhere here that the pituitary gland is located. It is called the master gland. भला क्यों? Let's understand. It is a size of a pea. यानी कि मटर के साइज का रहता है. It's a very small thing, but वो छोटा भी बड़ी चीजें करता है. It does a lot of important work in the human body. It hangs from the base of the midbrain below the hypothalamus. It is called the master gland because it controls all other endocrine glands. छोटा है लेकिन सब पर भारी है. सब endocrine glands को control pituitary gland करता है. Therefore, it is called the master gland. The hormones which are secreted by the pituitary glands influence secretion of other glands. So they are also called tropic hormones. The hormones master gland समझ में आ गया? उसमें जो hormones निकले, they are called tropic hormones because they influence the secretion of the other glands. And tropic means influencing activity. So, if you break down the word, आपको समझने में भी आसानी होगी. You will be able to remember it better. Pituitary is like the executive officer of the hypothalamus. So hypothalamus, that's again a very important organ in the brain. So hypothalamus का, it is like the executive officer. मैं तुम्हारा सारा काम कर दूंगा. He is like the chairman. Hypothalamus is the chairman. This fellow is like the chief executive officer, and it carries out all the instructions. The pituitary gland का weight is less than half a gram. So छोटा है और weight भी ज्यादा नहीं है. It has two lobes, the anterior pituitary lobe and the posterior pituitary lobe. The hormones produced by the anterior pituitary lobe के बारे में पहले पढ़ते हैं. पहला है growth hormone. It is essential for normal growth for you and me, the way so that you grow normally. It is also called as the somatotropin that stimulates the body for normal growth. The deficiency of the growth hormone in childhood results in dwarfism. अगर growth hormone ठीक से नहीं रिलीज हो रहा है, secrete नहीं हो रहा है, तो आप बौने बन सकते हैं. Okay. Over secretion से क्या होता है? In childhood results in gigantism, height beyond normal range. I remember the tallest man in India, a person called Gattaya, Karimnagar district of Andhra Pradesh, now in Telangana. He used to be there. I remember meeting him almost 20 years ago. He's no more now. He died at the age of 40. He was 7 feet 6 inches, 7.5 feet. I am 5'10". So before him, you look like a dwarf. He would be like this. His big problem was, and he used to live in a village in Karimnagar district, that he wouldn't find slippers of his size. Clothes, okay, you can still get it stitched by the local tailor. He wouldn't find chappals. So his chappals, which he had got locally made by a cobbler, were like this big because his feet were so large, right? So Gattaya, 7.5 feet tall. So his was a case of gigantism, right? Because his parents were normal. His parents, again, farmers, tenant farmers, I think, they were normal, but this guy was very, very tall. There used to be no bed. If you put the bed, half his body would be kind of outside the bed. So over secretion of growth hormone in childhood results in gigantism, height beyond normal range. Over secretion of this thing in adult results in extra growth of bones in face, hands, feet, large nose, thick lips. Condition is called acromegaly. Okay, so this is what happens in a child, and then this happens in an adult. Then this is very important because this is one of the major medical ailments that many people, especially women, suffer from. The thyroid stimulating hormone. You would see that beyond the age of 40, you may have seen it in your family, you will always find the medical report will always test you for the TSH. कि TSH का value कितना है. And generally in many cases, especially women, it's found to be varying a little abnormally. So TSH, the thyroid stimulating hormone, activates the thyroid to secrete thyroxine. Okay. And the third one is the gonad stimulating hormones. It regulates the activity of testes and ovaries, the reproductive organs, and the adrenocorticotropic hormone, ACTH. This is again another very important hormone. It regulates the activity of the adrenal cortex, which is why I said, no, the pituitary gland is like the master gland. तो इसका देखो कंट्रोल सीधा कॉर्टेक्स को कंट्रोल कर रहा है. यहां पर है, लेकिन it is controlling the adrenal cortex, which is near the kidney, which is on top of the kidney. So it is able to do that. Now hormones produced by the posterior pituitary, the first one is vasopressin or ADH, antidiuretic hormone. ये आपको याद रखना पड़ेगा. Antidiuretic hormone का नाम क्या है, दूसरा नाम क्या है? It constricts blood vessels with rise in BP. Now this portion is all about remembering different things. So tabular form में आप बना लीजिए अपने notes, short notes in your own handwriting. उसको different colors से color कर लीजिए ताकि आपको visual memory से याद रखने में आसानी हो. Do that, it will really work. It acts on kidney, increasing reabsorption of water from kidney tubules, and deficiency of ADH, the vasopressin, it leads to diabetes insipidus, not diabetes mellitus. Diabetes insipid. Insipid means something tasteless. इसमें sugar नहीं होता है, unlike diabetes mellitus. So diabetes insipidus is different from diabetes mellitus. Please understand the difference. Water diabetes it's called, and frequent urination happens. Person becomes thirsty. In this there is no sugar in urine. Insipid means tasteless. The second one is oxytocin. In females, it stimulates contraction of uterus at the time of child delivery, childbirth, for more normal delivery. So it is called the birth hormone. Oxytocin is again very important in pregnant women when they are about in their 9th month about to deliver the child. Also stimulates contraction of muscles in mammary glands to help in, providing milk to the infant, to release milk. So it's also called the milk ejection hormone. So it's both called the birth hormone and the milk ejection hormone, oxytocin. Please remember this. Finally, the feedback mechanism. Now see, every body has mechanism to maintain a normal state. But there is something called negative feedback. There's something called positive feedback. The messages to increase or decrease depending on state of the body. That's what the the feedback mechanism is all about. So negative feedback is to order to restore to the normal state. Most feedback mechanism in body is of the negative, कि कुछ गड़बड़ हो जाए उसको वापस करेक्ट सिचुएशन में लाने के लिए the body sends a negative feedback. Positive feedback happens only in very few cases, like the uterine contractions at the time of child delivery. उसके बाद it will come back to the normal state. So that is called a positive feedback. Childbirth till delivery is completed. Okay, so that is as far as the feedback mechanism is concerned. So I hope आपको एंडोक्राइन ग्लैंड्स का पूरा चैप्टर समझ में आ गया. जो थोड़ा बहुत हमने रिवीजन भी किया उससे आपको मदद मिली. प्लीज मेक योर ओन शॉर्ट नोट्स फ्रॉम दिस इन टैबुलर फॉर्म. मेक योर ओन कोड जिससे कि आपको मदद मिले. आई होप एवरीथिंग इज क्लियर, बट देयर इज अ लॉट ऑफ, स्पेशली विद रिलेशन टू हार्मोन्स, काफी कुछ याद रखने की जरूरत है, रिटेन करने की जरूरत है. एंड आई एम श्योर you will be able to do that. Any doubts, ask in the comment section. I'll try my best to answer, but otherwise everything will be there in this video. You just need to see it at 1.5x speed and be able to deal with it. Tata, bye bye. Thank you very much. God bless you.